The gift. Admiral Elena Santos stood at the observation deck of the International Space Command Center, her dark eyes fixed on the massive ship descending through Earth's atmosphere. The Valraxian vessel's sleek purple hull seemed to absorb sunlight rather than reflect it, creating an otherworldly shimmer that made it hard to focus on directly. After 6 months of diplomatic exchanges, the mighty Valraxian Empire had finally decided to bestow their first gift upon humanity. "They're early," Dr. Marcus Wong muttered beside her, checking his tablet. The chief xenotechnologist hadn't slept in days, preparing for this moment. The diplomatic vessel wasn't supposed to arrive for another 3 hours. "Valraxians don't believe in arriving on time," Santos replied, straightening her uniform. "According to their cultural briefings, arriving early demonstrates superiority. Arriving exactly on time suggests equality." The massive ship settled into a hover above the specially constructed landing pad in the Nevada desert. It was easily twice the size of an aircraft carrier, its hull decorated with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change. A smaller vessel detached from its belly, the diplomatic shuttle. "Showtime," Santos said, turning toward the elevator. "Let's go meet our benefactors." The desert heat hit them like a wall as they stepped onto the landing pad. The diplomatic delegation was already emerging from their shuttle, tall, elegant beings with iridescent scales and multiple pairs of arms. High Ambassador Vextra led them, her head crest expanded in what their briefing said was a display of dominance. Admiral Santos, the ambassador's translator device, rendered her complex harmonics into English. "We trust our early arrival hasn't inconvenienced you." "Not at all, Ambassador," Santos replied smoothly. "We've been eagerly awaiting this historic moment." Vextra's secondary arms made a gesture that might have been amusement. "Yes, we imagine you have. The Valraxian Empire has decided that humanity has shown sufficient potential to receive their first gift of advanced technology. Behold." The massive ship above them began to transform. Sections of hull plating shifted and rotated, revealing a second vessel held within. As it was released, Santos felt her heart sink. The ship that descended was nothing like the magnificent Valraxian vessel that had carried it. Its hull was pitted and scarred, with visible patches and repairs. What might once have been elegant lines were broken by crude structural reinforcements. Dr. Wong's tablet was rapidly collecting data. "Admiral," he whispered, "preliminary scans show multiple systems are either missing or non-functional. This thing looks like it's been stripped for parts." Santos kept her face carefully neutral, even as she recognized exactly what this gift represented. The Valraxians weren't offering humanity a step toward the stars. They were offering their garbage, wrapped in diplomatic niceties. "This is the Star Color," Vextra announced proudly, "a vessel of great historical significance. We felt it would be appropriate for humanity's first steps into the greater galaxy." "We are honored by such a thoughtful gift," Santos replied, the diplomatic training kicking in automatically. She could see the barely concealed smirks among the junior Valraxian diplomats. They thought this was funny. The next several hours were a blur of ceremonies and speeches. World leaders appeared via hologram to express their gratitude. Corporate stocks soared at the mere prospect of alien technology to study. Through it all, Santos watched Dr. Wong and his team conducting their preliminary surveys of the vessel, their expressions growing increasingly concerned. When the ceremonies finally concluded, Santos joined Wong inside the Starkiller. The interior was exactly as the exterior had suggested, stripped bare of anything valuable, with only the most basic systems still functioning. "They took everything worth taking," Wong said, running a scanner over an empty panel. "Weapons, shields, sensors, all gone. Even the artificial gravity is barely functional." He kicked a piece of debris across the floor, watching it float slightly before settling. "We'd need to rebuild almost everything from scratch." Santos studied the gutted bridge, noting the empty mounting points where advanced equipment had clearly once been installed. But something caught her eye. Subtle patterns in the way systems had been removed, consistencies in the power distribution network that remained. Dr. Wong, she said slowly, would you say they stripped this ship randomly or methodically? Wong looked up from his tablet, brow furrowed. Methodically, definitely. Almost surgically in some cases. Why? Because nobody is this precise when scrapping a ship, Santos replied, running her hand along a power conduit. They didn't just strip this ship. They stripped it according to a plan. The question is, why go to all that trouble? Why not just give us a completely derelict vessel? Wang's eyes widened as he followed her logic. He began recalibrating his scanners, taking deeper readings of the ship's infrastructure. These power signatures, they're odd. Like there's more going on beneath the surface than what we're seeing. The Valraxians think they're teaching us our place in the galaxy, Santos said, a slight smile playing at her lips. But I think they just made their first mistake. Get me a full analysis of every system, every power reading, every piece of this ship, no matter how insignificant it might seem. What are you thinking, Admiral? I'm thinking that sometimes the best way to hide something isn't to lock it away, she replied. Sometimes the best hiding place is right out in the open, disguised as something worthless. She turned to look at the Valraxian diplomatic vessel rising into the sky. They think they're giving us trash to put us in our place. Let's see what humanity can do with it. As Wang's team began their detailed analysis, Santos couldn't shake the feeling that this gift was more than just a diplomatic insult. The Valraxians had given humanity a puzzle box, whether they meant to or not. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was solving puzzles that no one thought they could crack. Hidden potential. 3 weeks after the Valraxians' departure, Dr. Marcus Wong found himself staring at data that defied explanation. He sat in the makeshift command center they'd established inside the Starcolor, surrounded by holographic displays showing power distribution patterns that seemed to violate several laws of physics. Run it again, he ordered, rubbing his tired eyes. His team of engineers and physicists had been working around the clock, mapping every system and power signature in the vessel. What they were finding made less sense with each passing day. Dr. Maya Patel, their lead power systems expert, gestured at the central display. We've run it 20 times, Marcus. The numbers don't lie. There's more energy flowing through this ship's basic systems than should be possible with the technology we can see. It's like watching a trickle of water power a hydroelectric dam. Wang stood, walking to the display and tracing the complex network of power signatures with his finger. The Valraxians had stripped out all the advanced systems, weapons, shields, sensors, leaving only what they claimed were the most basic life support and propulsion systems. But the power readings suggested something else entirely. Show me the temporal analysis again, he said. Maya brought up a new display, showing how power fluctuated through the ship's systems over time. Patterns emerged, subtle rhythms and pulses that seemed almost organic in nature. Admiral Santos chose that moment to enter the command center. Please tell me you have something, she said, carrying a cup of coffee that suggested she'd been up as long as they had. We have something, Wong confirmed. We just don't know what it is yet. The power signatures we're detecting, they're not consistent with any known technology, Valraxian or human. Santos studied the displays. Could they have left some systems intact by accident? No, Maya interjected. This was deliberate. Look at these connection points. She highlighted several areas where systems had been removed. They're too precise, too clean. This wasn't a salvage job. It was surgery. They removed exactly what they wanted to remove and left exactly what they wanted to leave. Wong nodded. And what they left behind is extraordinary. We think the entire ship might be built around some kind of advanced power distribution network. The systems we can see are just the surface layer. There's something else underneath, something that. He was interrupted by an urgent alert from one of the sensor stations. Dr. Wong called out Lieutenant Sarah Chen, their youngest team member. I'm detecting a massive power spike in section C7. The holographic displays flickered as energy surged through the ship's systems. Warning indicators flashed red across multiple screens. "That's impossible," Maya muttered, fingers flying across her control panel. "That section is supposed to be completely dead. We haven't even restored power there yet." "Seal off the section," Santos ordered. "Full containment protocols." "Wait." Wong held up his hand, studying the readings. "These patterns, they're not random. Look at the frequency modulation. It's like the ship is trying to tell us something." Lieutenant Chen's eyes widened. "The universal translation matrices the Viraxians gave us. What if we applied them to these energy patterns?" Wong was already moving to her station. "To it. Run them through every variation we have." For several tense minutes, they watched as Chen fed the power signatures through the translation algorithms. Suddenly, new patterns emerged on her display. Not words exactly, but something closer to mathematical concepts. "It's a key," Wong breathed, excitement building in his voice. "No, more than that. It's an invitation. These power spikes, they're like breadcrumbs, leading us somewhere." Santos leaned over his shoulder, studying the patterns. "Leading us where?" "There's only one way to find out," Wong replied. He turned to Maya. "Can you isolate which systems are generating these signatures?" She nodded, already working. "They seem to be emanating from behind the auxiliary power coupling in section C7. There's some kind of, I don't know, resonance chamber back there. But according to the schematics the Viraxians gave us, that section should just be structural support." "Lieutenant Chen," Santos addressed the young officer, "assemble a team. Full protective gear, every sensor we've got. Let's see what our friends were kind enough to leave behind." The scene in section C7 was unlike anything Wong had expected. Behind a seemingly solid bulkhead, they discovered a hidden chamber. Inside, suspended in a web of crystalline structures, was what appeared to be a pulsing core of pure energy. "My God," Maya whispered, her sensors struggling to process what they were seeing. "The power output, it's orders of magnitude beyond anything we've seen before. This isn't just a power source. It's some kind of quantum matrix." Wong studied the crystalline lattice surrounding the core. "Look at how it's connected to the ship's systems. All those basic power conduits they left behind. They're not power conduits at all. They're control systems, designed to regulate and channel whatever this is." "But why leave it?" Santos asked. "Why strip everything else but leave something this valuable?" Chen spoke up from where she was analyzing the translation data. "Maybe they couldn't remove it. Or maybe," she hesitated, then continued, "maybe they wanted us to find it." Wong turned to her. "What do you mean?" "These patterns we're seeing, they're too perfect, too easy to decode once we knew what to look for. What if this isn't just about the technology? What if it's a test?" Santos smiled slowly. "A test that, officially, doesn't exist. If we fail, we're just primitive humans struggling with basic alien tech. But if we succeed, we prove we're ready for something more." Wong finished. He turned back to the pulsing core, its light casting strange shadows through the crystalline structure. "The question is, ready for what?" As if in response, new patterns began flowing through the ship's systems, more complex, more intricate, but still following that same mathematical logic. The real work, Wong realized, was just beginning. The Viraxians had given them a puzzle box of unprecedented sophistication, and humanity's response would determine far more than just their technological advancement. "Well," Santos said, watching the patterns dance across their displays, "let's show them what humanity can do with a proper challenge." She turned to her team. "Full classification on this, understood. As far as the world is concerned, we're still struggling to get the basic systems running. Meanwhile, let's see just how deep this rabbit hole goes." The breakthrough. 2 months into Project Starcolor, Lieutenant Sarah Chen made the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. She burst into the secure conference room, where Admiral Santos and Dr. Wong were reviewing progress reports, her usual composure replaced by barely contained excitement. "We've been looking at it all wrong," she announced, quickly connecting her tablet to the room's holographic projector. Everyone assumed the quantum core was a power source, but it's not. It's a translator. The hologram sprang to life, showing complex mathematical models that twisted and flowed like living things. Wang leaned forward, his eyes widening as he processed what he was seeing. "The crystalline lattice," Chen continued. "It's not just containing the energy, it's processing it, converting it from one form to another. That's why the power readings never made sense. We weren't measuring power at all. We were measuring potential." Santos studied the flowing equations. "Potential for what?" "For anything," Chen replied, her eyes shining. "The core doesn't generate energy, it transforms it. Matter to energy, energy to matter, and everything in between. The Varaxians were using it at maybe 1% of its capability because they were trying to control it, to force it into their existing technological framework." Wang stood, walking through the hologram. "But we're not bound by their framework. We can start fresh, build new systems around the core's natural properties instead of trying to make it conform to conventional physics." "Exactly," Chen nodded. "Dr. Patel and I have been running simulations. If we combine this technology with our latest work in quantum field manipulation." She adjusted the display, showing a new set of calculations. The implications made Wang sink back into his chair. "That's impossible," he whispered, but his voice held more awe than doubt. "6 months ago, this whole ship was impossible," Chen countered. "The only reason we're making these breakthroughs is because we're not trying to make it work like Varaxian tech. We're letting it show us how it wants to work." Santos looked between them. "In plain English, please." Wang gathered himself. "If Sarah's right, we could rebuild the Starcaller into something unprecedented. Not just a warship, a ship that can reshape reality around itself. The ultimate expression of Clarke's third law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic," Santos quoted. "How long?" "To implement the basic systems, 3 months, Chen said. "To unlock its full potential. That depends on how far we're willing to go." Santos was quiet for a moment, considering. The Varaxian observers return next week for their quarterly inspection. They're expecting to find us still struggling with basic repairs, barely able to keep life support running. A slow smile spread across her face. "Let's give them exactly what they're expecting." The next week, the small Varaxian delegation toured a ship that appeared to be in barely better shape than when they'd left it. Dr. Patel led them through corridors where engineers struggled with malfunctioning gravity plating and fought with unstable power systems. "As you can see," she explained apologetically to the clearly amused observers, "we're making progress, but slowly. Human technology isn't quite compatible with many of these systems." The lead observer, a junior diplomat named Vexner, made a gesture of patronizing understanding. "Perhaps we overestimated your species' readiness for such advanced technology. Still, keep trying. In a few decades, you might manage to get the waste recyclers working properly." What the Varaxians didn't see was the real work happening in sealed chambers and during carefully coordinated night shifts. They didn't see the quantum forge taking shape in the hidden heart of the ship, or the new hybrid systems that merged human innovation with the core's reality warping potential. They didn't see Dr. Wang and his team developing interfaces that worked with the core's natural properties instead of against them. They didn't see Lieutenant Chen's breakthrough in quantum field manipulation that allowed them to not just channel the core's power, but amplify it. Most importantly, they didn't see the test chamber where Maya Patel had successfully transformed a block of lead into gold, then back again, then into something entirely new. A demonstration of mastery over matter itself that would have sent shockwaves through the galactic community. After the Varaxian delegation departed, satisfied that humanity was exactly where they expected them to be, Santos gathered her core team. "Status report," she ordered, though she couldn't quite hide her smile. "Hull regeneration systems are online and fully functional," Wang reported. The quantum forge is operating at 40% capacity and rising. Shield innovations are exceeding all projections. We're not just deflecting energy, we're converting it. Weapons? Santos asked. We're not calling them weapons, Chen interjected. They're reality enforcement systems. Conventional weapons destroy. Ours convince things to be something else instead. Maya pulled up a secure video feed showing their latest test. A target drone simply ceased to exist, the space it had occupied smoothly filling with undisturbed air. How long until we're ready for a full systems test? Santos asked. 2 weeks for the preliminary trials, Wang answered. After that, we'll be in uncharted territory. We're not just pushing boundaries here, we're rewriting them. Santos nodded, her expression turning serious. The Valraxians' next major inspection is in 3 months. They'll be sending their senior scientists this time, not just diplomatic observers. We need to be ready before then. Ready for what? Chen asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Ready to decide, Santos replied, whether we show them exactly what humanity can do when underestimated, or whether we continue letting them think they've got us right where they want us. As if in response, the quantum core pulsed behind its crystalline lattice, sending waves of possibility rippling through the ship's new nervous system. The star killer was becoming something more than either humanity or the Valraxians had imagined, a testament to what could happen when human ingenuity met alien arrogance. The real question was, what would they do with it? Rising tensions. The warning came from an unexpected source. A junior Valraxian cultural attaché, barely out of their education phase, approached Dr. Maya Patel after a routine diplomatic function. The young alien scales were shifting in patterns that their cultural briefings identified as extreme anxiety. The High Council has questions, the attaché whispered, multiple arms moving in agitated patterns. Your power consumption doesn't match your reported progress. They're sending an investigation team, not just observers. Maya maintained her composure, thanking the attaché for the warning while her mind raced through the implications. Within an hour, she sat with Admiral Santos and the core team in their most secure conference room, deep within the Starcolor's transformed hull. They know something's wrong, Santos concluded after hearing Maya's report. The question is, how much do they know? Dr. Wang pulled up their power consumption data. We've been careful, routing excess energy through dummy systems, masking the quantum core's signature. But maybe we weren't careful enough. Or maybe we were too careful, Lieutenant Chen suggested. Real research and development is messy. It has spikes and drops, failed experiments, blown circuits. Our data looks too clean, too controlled. Santos nodded slowly. How long until the investigation team arrives? 3 days, Maya replied, led by Chief Scientist Vex Troll herself. The name sent a chill through the room. Vex Troll was legendary in Valraxian scientific circles, known for an almost pathological attention to detail. She had been one of the original architects of the quantum core technology. We have 2 options, Santos said, her voice steady. We can maintain our deception, hide everything we've accomplished. Or we show them exactly what humanity can do, Wang finished. Chen brought up a holographic display of the Starkiller's current capabilities. The ship had evolved far beyond its original design. The quantum core, fully integrated with human design systems, had transformed it into something unprecedented in galactic history. If we reveal everything, Maya cautioned, we risk more than just our project. The political implications. She was interrupted by a priority alert from Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Network. Multiple ships had just emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They weren't Valraxian. 6 vessels, Wang reported, studying the data. Configuration unknown, but energy signatures suggest significant weapons capability. They're not responding to hails. Santos was already moving. How long until they reach Earth orbit? At their current velocity, 18 hours. And the Valraxian investigation team. Still 3 days out, Santos straightened, Her decision made. Lieutenant Chen, power up all systems. Dr. Wang, begin full integration protocols. Dr. Patel, I want weapons. Sorry, reality enforcement systems at full readiness. Admiral, Maya said carefully, once we power up the full systems, there's no hiding what we've done. The energy signature will be visible halfway across the galaxy. I know. Santos smiled grimly. Maybe it's time to show everyone what happens when you underestimate humanity. Begin launch preparations. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. The Starcaller's true form emerged as layers of carefully maintained camouflage fell away. It tall, now integrated with the quantum core's capabilities, rippled with possibilities. Reality itself seemed to bend slightly in its presence. Earth's governments were briefed, emergency protocols activated. The approaching ships had maintained their silence, but their trajectory made their intentions clear. They were on an attack vector. All systems online. Chen reported from her station on the transformed bridge. The familiar space now hummed with technologies that merged human intuition with the quantum core's reality-altering potential. Quantum forge at full capacity. Reality enforcement grid stable. Multiple weapons signatures from the approaching vessels, Wang added. They're charging weapons systems. Time to intercept, 23 minutes. Santos stood at the command station, watching the tactical display. Years of military experience told her these weren't pirates or raiders. The formation was too precise, the approach too calculated. This was a professional military force, coming to test Earth's defenses. They timed this perfectly, she mused. Just before the Valraxian inspection team arrives, almost like they knew. Rising tensions. The warning came from an unexpected source. The junior Valraxian cultural attaché, barely out of their education phase, approached Dr. Maya Patel after a routine diplomatic function. The young alien scales were shifting in patterns that their cultural briefings identified as extreme anxiety. The High Council has questions, the attaché whispered, multiple arms moving in agitated patterns. Your power consumption doesn't match your reported progress. They're sending an investigation team, not just observers. Maya maintained her composure, thanking the attaché for the warning while her mind raced through the implications. Within an hour, she sat with Admiral Santos and the core team in their most secure conference room, deep within the Starkiller's transformed hull. They know something's wrong, Santos concluded after hearing Maya's report. The question is, how much do they know? Dr. Wang pulled up their power consumption data. We've been careful, routing excess energy through dummy systems, masking the quantum core's signature. But maybe we weren't careful enough. Or maybe we were too careful, Lieutenant Chen suggested. Real research and development is messy. It has spikes and drops, failed experiments, blown circuits. Our data looks too clean, too controlled. Santos nodded slowly. How long until the investigation team arrives? 3 days, Maya replied. Led by Chief Scientist Vextrol herself. The name sent a chill through the room. Vextrol was legendary in Valraxian scientific circles, known for an almost pathological attention to detail. She had been one of the original architects of the quantum core technology. We have 2 options, Santos said, her voice steady. We can maintain our deception, hide everything we've accomplished. Or we show them exactly what humanity can do, Wang finished. Chen brought up a holographic display of the Starkiller's current capabilities. The ship had evolved far beyond its original design. The quantum core, fully integrated with human design systems, had transformed it into something unprecedented in galactic history. If we reveal everything, Maya cautioned, we risk more than just our project. The political implications. She was interrupted by a priority alert from Earth's deep space monitoring network. Multiple ships had just emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They weren't Valraxian. 6 vessels, Wang reported, studying the data. Configuration unknown, but energy signatures suggest significant weapons capability. They're not responding to hails. Santos was already moving. How long until they reach Earth orbit? At their current velocity, 18 hours. And the Valraxian investigation team? Still 3 days out. Santos straightened, her decision made. Lieutenant Chen, power up all systems. Dr. Wang, begin full integration protocols. Dr. Patel, I want weapons. Sorry, reality enforcement systems, at full readiness. Admiral, Maya said carefully, once we power up the full systems, there's no hiding what we've done. The energy signature will be visible halfway across the galaxy. I know. Santos smiled grimly. Maybe it's time to show everyone what happens when you underestimate humanity. Begin launch preparations. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. The Starcaller's true form emerged as layers of carefully maintained camouflage fell away. Its hull, now integrated with the quantum core's capabilities, rippled with possibilities. Reality itself seemed to bend slightly in its presence. Earth's governments were briefed, emergency protocols activated. The approaching ships had maintained their silence, but their trajectory made their intentions clear. They were on an attack vector. All systems online, Chen reported from her station on the transformed bridge. The familiar space now hummed with technologies that merged human intuition with the quantum core's reality-altering potential. Quantum forge at full capacity. Reality enforcement grid stable. Multiple weapons signatures from the approaching vessels. Wang added. They're charging weapons systems. Time to intercept, 23 minutes. Santos stood at the command station, watching the tactical display. Years of military experience told her these weren't pirates or raiders. The formation was too precise, the approach too calculated. This was a professional military force coming to test Earth's defenses. They timed this perfectly, she mused, just before the Valraxian inspection team arrives, almost like they knew. You think the Valraxians set this up? Maya asked, surprised. Why? To see what we'd do, Santos replied. To force our hand, make us either reveal our progress or face invasion with what they think is a barely functional ship. She smiled. I don't think they were expecting us to get quite this far. The enemy ships entered visual range, their dark hulls bristling with weapon emplacements. They moved with the confidence of predators who had done this many times before. Final preparations complete, Chen reported. Ready on your order, Admiral. Santos took a moment to look at her crew. Human ingenuity and determination personified, about to show the galaxy exactly what they were capable of. Well, she said, settling into her command chair, let's not disappoint our audience. Take us out. The Starkiller rose from its berth, its quantum-enhanced hull singing with possibilities. Above, the unknown ships began their attack run, unaware that they were about to become part of a demonstration that would reshape galactic politics forever. The real question was, who was really testing whom? Proving ground. The unknown ships struck first, launching a barrage of energy weapons that would have vaporized a small city. On the Starkiller's bridge, Lieutenant Chen watched the incoming fire with an almost serene expression. Reality enforcement grid engaging, she reported calmly. Quantum field stabilized. The space around the Starkiller shimmered as the energy weapons approached. Instead of impacting, the beams simply ceased to exist. Not deflected, not absorbed. They were transformed into harmless potential, fed back into the ship's quantum matrix. My God, Wang whispered, watching his readings. The conversion rate is nearly perfect. They're not just attacking us. They're charging our systems. Admiral Santos allowed herself a small smile. Signal the lead vessel. Let's see if they're more talkative now. The response was immediate. A harsh, guttural language their translation matrix quickly decoded. Primitive humans, you were supposed to be defenseless, struggling with basic Valraxian technology. What trickery is this? No trickery, Santos replied, her voice steady. Just human ingenuity. Stand down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we'll be forced to demonstrate exactly what that means. The enemy commander's laugh was like grinding metal. You think because you can deflect our weapons, you can challenge the might of the Drachnid Imperium. We've conquered 100 worlds with less firepower than we brought to subdue your pitiful planet. Final warning, Santos said simply. Stand down. The Drachnid response was another barrage, this time from all 6 ships simultaneously. Energy weapons, projectiles, even what appeared to be experimental phase disruptors. They threw everything they had at the Starkiller. They're trying to overwhelm the grid, Maya reported, her fingers dancing across her console. Quantum core at 80% capacity and rising. Santos nodded to Chen. Show them what we can do with all that energy they're giving us. Chen's hands moved in practiced patterns across her interface. The quantum core pulsed, its power flowing through systems designed by humans who hadn't known such things were impossible. Reality rippled around the Starkiller like heat waves off hot asphalt. The lead Drachnid ship simply changed. One moment it was a massive warship bristling with weapons. The next it was an elegant collection of abstract crystalline structures, hanging motionless in space. Its weapons, its engines, its very atomic structure had been convinced to become something else entirely. What have you done? The Drachnid commander's voice shook with horror. We learned from the best, Santos replied. The Valraxians gave us their trash, thinking we'd stay in our place. Instead, we saw the potential they'd missed. We didn't just repair their cast-off technology. We transcended it. As if to emphasize her point, 2 more Drachnid ships transformed, their military might converted into delicate artistic statements about the nature of matter and energy. The remaining vessels broke formation, attempting to retreat. Should we let them go? Wang asked. Santos considered for a moment. No, the galaxy needs to understand exactly what it means to underestimate humanity. Lieutenant Chen, if you would. The final 3 ships underwent their own transformations, each unique, each beautiful in its own way. Where once had been implements of war, now hung an impromptu art exhibition demonstrating humanity's mastery over reality itself. Message coming in, Maya announced. It's from High Ambassador Vextra herself. They're requesting permission to enter the solar system. Put her through. The Valraxian ambassador's image appeared on their main display, her scales shifting through patterns of agitation. And was that fear? Admiral Santos, she began formally. We appear to have significantly underestimated humanity's potential. A common mistake, Santos replied. One I trust won't be repeated. The High Council is most interested in discussing a revised diplomatic arrangement, Vextra continued. One that better reflects humanity's capabilities. Santos glanced at the transformed Drachnid ships, still hanging in space like impossible sculptures. We're certainly open to discussion, Ambassador. Though I hope you'll understand if we insist on equal terms this time. Of course. Vextra's scales shifted to a pattern they'd never seen before. I must ask, the quantum core we left you, how did you unlock its full potential so quickly? Our greatest scientists spent decades studying it. And yet, perhaps, Santos suggested, the problem wasn't with the technology, but with how you approached it. You tried to force it to work within your existing framework. We simply listened to what it was trying to tell us. The ambassador was quiet for a moment. The investigation team led by Chief Scientist Vextra. Should I inform them their presence is no longer required? On the contrary, Santos smiled. We'd be delighted to share what we've learned. After all, isn't that what equals do? Share knowledge. As the ambassador's image faded, Santos looked around at her crew, at the humans who had taken an alien insult and turned it into humanity's greatest achievement. Well, she said, settling back in her command chair, I'd say that's a successful first test run. Dr. Wang, what's the status of our artistic additions to local space? Stable, he reported, still studying his readings with wonder. And beautiful in their way. Though I'm not sure whether to classify them as sculptures or demonstrations of quantum engineering. Why not both? Chen suggested. After all, we've just proved that the only real limits are the ones we place on ourselves. Santos looked out at the transformed ships, at the approaching Valraxian diplomatic vessel, and at the Earth hanging beautiful and blue behind them all. That's the thing about humanity, she said softly. Give us limitations, and we'll turn them into possibilities. Give us trash, and we'll build something magnificent. Maya smiled at her console. And if you try to put us in our place, we'll show you exactly where that place is, Santos finished. Right alongside everyone else in the galaxy. No higher, no lower, just exactly where we've earned the right to be. The quantum core pulsed within the Starcolor's heart, its power flowing through systems born of human innovation and alien arrogance. Above Earth, a new chapter in human history had begun, not with a whimper of submission, but with a demonstration of just what happens when you underestimate humanity's potential.